Hey guys, it is James and Jazz with the Table Talk. We are here to complete the two-part series of the effects that drugs have on you and your family. First and foremost, let's just say this. It's been one hell of a day. So, without further ado, let's get with it. My co-host is going to start us off because she got some information for your behinds tonight. So, here we go with the Table Talk with James and Jazz. Hey, Jazz. How are you doing, girl?
Doing good.
Likewise, I'm trying to take you.
Okay, so I'm going to touch base on the drugs and addiction that it has on the millennials. So part of the well-being trust pain in the nation, this issue brief reviews the data for deaths due to alcohol, drugs, and suicide amongst young adults ages 16 to 34, often called millennials. For the period between 1996 and 2021, increases in alcohol, drugs, and suicide deaths have affected all age groups during that period, but the impact on millennials has been especially significant. Many millennials. Go ahead. You can Jeff.
Now, the front page of the Drug and Abuse Statistics.org features the most noteworthy drugs abuse data, including overdose deaths, demographics, mental health, drug and abuse treatment programs, and the cost of the war on drugs. Now, 50% of half of the people 12 and older have used illicit drugs at least once. 700K drug overdose deaths in the U.S. since 2000 are nearly now 1 million. $35 billion was set aside on the federal budget to control drugs in 2020, and that was $35 billion. That's a lot of money. Go ahead, Jess.
Right. Many millennials lack the protective factors that other age groups typically had. Many millennials are less likely to live in a kind of supportive circumstances that can help them recover from trauma and adversity compared with earlier generations. About 6 to 10 millennials, which is 57%, have never been married, and 37% have intimate partner violence, and most commonly first occurs between ages 18 and 24.
Now, with that going, and the statistics are saying, now this is going from used in a lifetime, used in last year, and used in a month. Now, the marijuana usage was 45.7%, and that was used in a lifetime. 17.9% used in the last year, and 11% used in the last month. Now, the cocaine, which we thought would be high, is lower. And this is from the age 12 and older. Now, it was 14.2%, 1.9%, and 0.7%, excuse me. And with the LSD, it was 10.2% used in a lifetime, 1% used in the last year, and 0.2% used in the last month.
In addition, today's millennials face the runaround cost of higher education. Many have large amount of college debts, which creates financial strain and a reduced ability to purchase a home or afford other goods and services that might offer greater security, particularly compared with prior generations. Being the head of household by someone younger than 35, 40% have outstanding student loan debt. Young people with college debt typically spend close to half of their income on loan payments. You can go.
And now, among Americans ages 12 years and older, 309 million were current illegal drug users. Now, this was used within the last 30 days, and that was as of 2020. 13.5% of Americans 12 years and older used drugs in the last month. That was a 3.8% increase from the previous year. 59.277 million, or you could say 21.4% of the people 12 and over have used illegal drugs or misused prescription drugs within the last year. 138.543 million, or 50% of people aged 12 and older, have illicitly used drugs in their lifetime. Usership among people ages 12 and over is down, thank God, but it's a low 0.4%. 138.522 million Americans 12 years and older drink alcohol. Jazz.
The cost of raising children can be additional stressors for millennials. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it costs $14,000 annually to raise a child until age of 17. That's a total of nearly $240,000. Housing, childcare, education, and food make up the majority of that spending.
Now, the substance abuse and the addiction are continuing to spread rapidly amongst our world's population. Countries all over the world have been impacted by the effects of the drug addiction. Now, families in every city have experienced how addictions can negatively affect them. The truth is, addictions don't care who the person is, where you come from, or how old you are. Now, unfortunately, people of all ages are being affected by this horrible epidemic that is spreading. Although this is certainly sad news, there is also some good news. It is true that lots of people feel the effects of drug addiction. Teens, the young adults, middle-aged individuals, and senior adults alike can deal with substance abuse. But thankfully, treatment is available for people of all ages. Hope and help are always available for everyone, from the youngest victims to the oldest victims. Now, when young people feel the effects of drug addiction, the younger individuals, specifically young adults, can feel the effects of drug addiction in a couple of different ways. Now, some people, they feel the impact of drugs, the usage, it comes from the parents, the grandparents, or other adults that are in the family. They may overuse drugs or alcohol. Now, some children are growing up in homes where alcoholism or opioid addictions are present. This means that the youth are being exposed to substance use at an early age. Now, as a result of this, teens and young people are being impacted by addiction on a regular basis. Now, when a parent or a guardian becomes involved in the world of substance abuse, it can change their whole family operation. Children may not be cared for in the best way, or they may just be pressed away and thrown at the footsteps of other parents. Jazz?
The cost of health care and the concerns about how much care will cost are additional stressors for most Americans, including young adults, and can cause people not to seek care in a timely manner. A 2021 poll found that 1 in 4 people skipped a medical treatment due to the cost of treatment. Young adults often take more risk in sexual and drug use behaviors compared to other adults. Furthermore, there is a disproportionate number of people in this age category who are involved in high-stress environments. For example, some are in correctional facilities. In 2021, 42% of the federal and state prisons populations were between the ages of 16 and 34. In 2020, you want to take the floor? Okay. In 2020, more than 150,000 Americans died from alcohol and drug-induced fatalities and suicide. That's the highest number ever recorded, and more than twice as many as in 1999. The largest number of these deaths, almost half, were the results of drug overdoses, more than the peak annual total from HIV, guns, or car crashes. For America's Health and Well-Being Trust have called the immediate and sustained attention and investment in national resilience tragedy to address this rising death toll.
Now, when it comes to talking about more statistic-wise, we can get more in a general sense where it was 22% of males and 17% of females who used illegal drugs or misused prescription drugs within this last year. 5% of the people in a non-metropolitan or rural countries used illegal drugs compared to 20.2% of people in larger metropolitan areas such as DC, New York. Now, the drug usage is the highest among people between the ages of 18 and 25, at 39% compared to persons aged 26 to 29, and that's at 34%. Now, when you come to the actual specifics of the substances that are used, alcohol was 49.9 million first-time users, marijuana 3.1 million first-time users, painkillers 1.9 million, tobacco 1.8 million, fluorescents like PCP and acid, that was 1.1 million, cocaine 874,000, methamphetamines 205,000, and then heroin was 117,000. Now, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is CMS, finalized expansions of Medicare coverage to include opioid treatment programs delivering MAT. Now, this is the part of the study that I don't agree with. It's medicated assisted treatment, and that went in effect in January of 2020. And the reason why I don't agree with that is because you're replacing a drug with another drug to replace that drug. And that's not something that should be done with anybody, because that continues to keep the gradual growth of drugs. And it shows in statistics because 9.49 million, or 3.4% of Americans ages 12 and older misused opioids last year once or over the 12 months. Jasmine?
Millennials are generally thought of as people born between 1981 and 1996, making them ages 23 to 38. In 2019, millennials faced and continues to face a mix of challenges unique to their generation, many of which are discussed in this report, including the opioid crisis, the skyrocketing cost of education and housing, and entering the job market during the Great Recession. Definitions of the millennial generations are not always consistent across data sources and organizations. Often there are differences in age ranges and or age groupings in the data sets about millennials. For this reason, multiple data sets with varying age ranges were used for this report. For example, data sets covering those 18 to 25 or 25 to 34 or 30 to 35 are included in this report that we're talking about. But the main theme is consistent alcohol, drugs, and suicide are having a profoundly negative impact on many young adults and their families. Research shows that many different life circumstances, often rooted in childhood trauma and early adversity, can lead to substance misuse and mental health problems. Every child who has adverse childhood experience will not necessarily have a substance use disorder as an experience will not necessarily have a substance use disorder or as an adult. However, such experiences put children at increased risk of developing substance use disorder and suicidal creations later in life. For this reason, we are devoting a section of this report to many ways that childhood experiences impact adult behavior. It's also important to remember that the childhood experiences of today millennials not only impact them, but they also impact the future generations, today's children. It is also worth noting that both risk and protection factors are able and our experiences and interventions can shape them.
Now, when it comes to the effects, people of all age groups feel the effects of drug addiction. Younger individuals, specifically young adults, can feel the effects of drug addiction in a couple of different ways, as I stated earlier. Some of these people feel the impact of drugs use as their parents and grandparents did. And the reason why that is many young people and middle-aged adults, they are also being impacted by the use of drugs. Sometimes spouses or older parents may misuse like the prescription drugs. Now, this can also have a major impact on individuals who are close to them. For example, if an adult is married to someone who is actually struggling with a drug, the spouse will feel the effects of that drug even when they're not using that drug. That drug may have to take on more of a financial load or to take care of the children's needs and so forth. Now, adults may be living with the effects of the trauma or the other issues. Now, such as mental health disorder. In cases such as that, people, they might develop an addiction problem as they try to cope with the things that make them struggle. You know, many adults and seniors are impacted by these effects of drugs because they have more adult children who are suffering from the substance use, or they themselves might be dealing with a drug problem. Many seniors also, they may not be using the illicit drugs. They're going dependent on medications. You know, like a lot of the older people, they have like oxycodone for pain. They're also impacted by this addiction epidemic that our world is facing. Now, helping people of all ages find this freedom is hard. But wellness treatment recovery centers understand that the addiction can impact people from all walks of life, more so the people with money. That's when we come up with the designer drugs. We know that it can take effect on youth and seniors a little bit more than the middle age. Now, this is why we provide treatment and care for adults and older adults and elderly patients. WRCC is committed to helping people gain complete freedom from drugs and alcohol use. So, if you have someone who you know that is using a drug, you can get some help for them. But they have to want that help and for that help to actually, become effective. If they don't want that help, there ain't nothing that we can do about it. There's a lot of risk with the side effects with the drugs. And these consumer reports, they're showing these drug companies that a lot of these prescription drugs are the cause of it. Like when I was growing up in the 80s, Reagan and Nancy Reagan had Just Say No to Drugs. So then they put these wrappers on it because they wanted to generalize it and say that it was majority African Americans, when in all truth, white people get higher than black people. You may see the movies because it is a stereotype placed upon our people. Now, the drugs, they affect children on all stages of life. Back to you, Jess.
Guiding Good Choices teaches parents of middle schoolers to strengthen bonding in their families through age-appropriate opportunities for families' interactions, to express positive feelings, and to adopt family conflict management approaches. The program also guides parents in setting clear expectations and applying discipline, as well as teaching their children coping strategies. Showing the program successfully inhibits alcohol and marijuana use amongst middle schoolers. Protective factors can also increase the likelihood that a child will stay in school and succeed in school, and they can lessen the risk that a child will become involved with the child welfare or criminal justice system. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families, Children's Bureau, the programs that most effectively build in children and adolescents, both reduce risk factors and build protective factors. The Life Skills Training Program is a 3-year prevention curriculum for middle school students teaching drug-resistant skills, self-management skills, and general social skills, in addition to providing useful information over the past 20 years. Evaluations have found the program reduces the use of tobacco, alcohol, and illicit drugs use by 50 to 87%. And when combined with booster sessions, it reduces the long-term substance misuse by as much as 66%, with effects lasting beyond the high school years. Students believing, you can go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Students believing that the adults and peers at their school care about them as an individual are invested in their education has been shown to be a strong protective factor, lowering the likelihood of chronic absenteeism, allowing students to experience less emotional distress, and reducing the likelihood of teen pregnancy and substance use.
So now, the part of this that I don't like is because when we get into talking about the substances and the repercussions of the substances,
Right.
it's accidental drug overdose. Now, that's the leading cause of death among persons under the age of 45. Now, over 70,000 drug overdoses occur in the U.S. annually. That is a whole lot, especially in the younger generation that's supposed to be procreating to build future generations. Now, from 2012 to 2015, the U.S. saw a 264% increase. Now, let's jump ahead from that point till we get to 2017 until current date. There has been a 96% increase in drug overdose deaths. And that is mainly from these pressed pills, because a lot of the younger generations want the Percocets. They want to get on to the different things, like versus when I was growing up, it was ecstasy or it was Molly. Now it's the Percocet or the Halaron. And these things are becoming much more undetectable because the kids are, quote unquote, following media, social media, rappers, artists. That's where we're getting into with these bigger numbers. Now, the signs of an overdose, people, take a pen and write these down, because these are happening to our millennials. Cold, clammy skin, pinpoint polyps on their skin, slow respiration, and a long-term unconsciousness, which we as parents can call it sleepy, lazy. Your kids aren't being lazy. Your kids are high. Your kids are overdosing and dying. After calling 911, what you need to do is place any unconscious person in a recovery position while you wait for help to arrive. Now, here are some of the things that you could do. One, place them on the side. Bend their knees as if they're in the fetal position. Rest their head on top of the arm closest to the floor. I wish I had a diagram to where I could actually show you guys. And another way to know that they're abusing drugs is naturally sourced opioids are derived from poppies. Synthetic opioids are created in laboratories, including methadone, fentanyl, and meperidine. Now, street names include smack, horse, mud, brown sugar, junk, black tat, big H, dovers, powder, MPT, which is the new form of heroin, which that's new to me. I've never heard of that. Now, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid drug approved by the FDA as an anesthetic. Now, this is for pain. It is also one of the most abused, dangerous narcotics to date. Now, there is a place where you can go to get information on this, and it's a report on fentanyl abuse. Folks, I want you guys to really start to research, because the key findings is 53% fentanyl is a factor in more than half of our overdoses. 2 milligrams, less than 0.007% of an ounce of fentanyl causes certain death. Now, 43K statistics indicates that 42,700 fentanyl deaths since 2020. Fentanyl is 25% of the recreational drug toxicity. Heroin is 20%, GHB is 12.5%. Alcohol is 10%, cocaine is 6%, MDMA is 6%, codeine 4%, which thank God has failed from the 35% that it was 2 years ago. Now, this all first developed in the 1959 and the 60s. So this goes back a ways, and where I point the finger at, and I don't care if you politicians get mad, it's your fault. Because you guys regulate this stuff, you guys make the rules and laws and policies that govern this. And it goes back to when George Bush Sr. was in office, when him and his vice president at that time was found to be dropping off drugs and guns and trains in South Central. Now, it was quickly pushed under the rug because the DEA agents confiscated more than 239 kilograms. Should I say 59.75 million lethal dosages of fentanyl in the hood. Which on the flip side, it flipped because the street pharmacists, which I call them, they were selling them to who? The white high school kids who were coming in and calling it designer drugs. So that, in effect, according to research, started leading to the mass school shootings, such as Columbine and those things, because these kids were doing more than just copycatting, or they wanted to be, what do you call it? They wanted to be popular. They were on illicit drugs that drove them to this point.
Right.
So, to the roundtable discussion, we see this happening every day. We see parents allowing their kids to watch uneducated, unadulterated programming that can sometimes lead them to doing these things. As we were having a conversation earlier, I was saying to Jazz, dang, I didn't really think of it in hindsight that when I was caught at George's Market over there on the Mexican War streets with cigarettes that I stole from my mom, that would progressively lead to utilizing hardcore drugs. And I wasn't a dummy. I wasn't raised in an environment where it was seen every day. And at that time, you had to either find something to do with yourself, because you're not going to be sitting up under the grown-ups. You're not going to be sitting in the house watching BET with Donnie Simpson and Sherry Carter. You wasn't going to be doing all of that. You're going to go outside, you're going to play Release the Den, or find something to do with yourself other than. So there was no rhyme or reason as to why I got involved. It was because I just wanted to do something that I wanted to do that my mom and them didn't like. And that was kind of simple. But today, it's almost like taking your kids to a 5-star restaurant, but you're taking your kids to a 5-star drug lord. Honey, what do you want, girlfriend? You want Tina Bina? You want Molly Polly? You want Chrissy Crack? Or you want Mary Jane? You know? And that's where it came into play. So with my research and with Jazz,
right,
doing our research diligence to bring this to you guys and to take time away from our families, that we are trying to make sure that they don't fall into the grips. There's a lot of information that is out there. And I don't care if I got to spend another tireless night editing and adding on, but I'm going to do it. Because those 6 organizations that Jasmine gave us that we've seen on the end of the previous episode,
right,
there are more. I want to put this out there because I said this to Jess earlier too. For me, and now this is for me, now this is not a recipe for everybody, but this is for me because of where I grew up and how I was raised. The only way that I was going to get clean is by going into a spirit-filled program. There are programs out there, i.e., Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge, and that's not the only teen challenge. There's 500 worldwide.
right,
In this place, you go to a 3-month induction period, which is an induction center, and then you go on to a 10-month program, which helps you build character, helps you learn the reasons why you've done it without those medical treatments that aren't needed. There's no way on God's green earth that you can tell me that, you were just a meth smoker, and now all of a sudden I'm going to give you methadone so I can get you off of it. Where's the fucking difference, people? There is none. Like, for instance, when I went to the VA, instead of them saying, we're going to put you in the right place with the right people at the right time and give you the tools necessary to use when you leave away from here, I'm going to give you a pill. There was a drug called Topamate. It was supposed to be a cocaine blocker. But when you don't have the HMOs or the PPOs to help you purchase these pills afterwards, what do? Resort to your old useful behaviors.
right.
You use. And sorry, AA and NA, I'm not a proponent of those either. Because what I learned in Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge was pull yourself up by your big boy panties or your bootstraps and get it in gear. Stop blaming others, not taking responsibility, and fleeing. And making the people who want to get you better feel as though it's their fault. It's your fault you picked up the first one. I realized it was my fault. I picked it up. You know, even growing up in big cities, that doesn't matter that you grew up in big city. Oh, because Poochie jumped off the bridge, and you jumping off too?
Right.
Jess, you have anything else?
Yes, I still have some stuff to touch on with the students and kids. The impact of these protective factors that they have in schools now has shown to last in early adulthood. One initiative that addresses school connectedness, the Caring School Community Program, aims to strengthen elementary school students' sense of community at school. The program includes a set of mutual reinforcing approaches to the classroom, school, and a family involvement. For example, when your kids go to school, you know, normally they have like morning and closing circle activities in which students practice social skills and get to know one another. weekly class meetings in which students address common concerns, and current meetings in which students address current issues, which students address at school, weekly home connection activities in which students learn to talk to their families about the social development topics of the class. These activities target the development of social and emotional skills, and they promote positive peer, teacher, student, and homeschool relationships. Among the 40 schools that implemented the program, there was a 54% improvement in math achievements and a 46% improvement in communication arts achievements, as well as a reduction in the number of discipline referrals, which were down by average of 48 referrals per year, even as the number of referrals went up by an average of 88 per year in controlled schools. School policies such as zero tolerance policies that led to suspensions and expulsions contribute to increased risk factors for substance abuse and substance misuse. Basically, if you're sending kids home for no reason because they did something, you should have like a behavioral class so that they can sit down, get a breather, come back to class. Because if they're not in school, now they're finding things to do, and you know who's outside. The people that don't go to school, that do drugs and do this and do that, and now they're being involved with that because they got sent out of school. They were trying to do the right thing, but they got ticked off just for that moment, and now they have to take a week out of school. So I feel as though we need to be more genuine to people in school, to students, and just try not to send them home and talk to them and see what's going on. They could be having stuff going on at home. You just never know with children what's going on. So that's my take on it.
So what I wanted to do was, before we end this show, I wanted to give, and guys, apologize for whatever your spiritual belief is. In this process, don't lose the faith. Please, in this process, do not give up on your loved ones. And here's the reason why. And there's another reason why. And sorry, I'm a Pennsylvanian, why I am a proponent of this. First and foremost, thank God for Governor Tom Wolf, who took a leap out there and probably could have risked his career as a politician. This separation of church and state. But he took a risk, because Teen Challenge is one of the country's leading most successful treatment centers. And I'm going to give you a brief history. It was started in Brooklyn, New York in 1958 by Reverend David Wilkerson, little old skinny white boy from Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. Right. He went there as a preacher, and he went to start and help these people. On a February afternoon, Wilkerson read an article in Life magazine about 7 teenagers who were on trial for murder. Now, during that time, it was a gang fight in Manhattan. These teens, they beat a young man to death, troubled by what he read in that article and sensing the thing and the power that God wanted him to do something about this. It wasn't like he was going to go bang his own chest. I remember listening to this, and I'm trying to remember his name. Dang it. It's like slipping the tongue. There's a movie, it's called The Cross and the Switchblade. And one of the guys said to David Wilkerson, "You don't love me. I will cut you in 1,000 pieces." And David Wilkerson said to this man, and now these was ruthless gang members in New York. David Wilkerson said, "And every 1,000 piece that you cut me into, I'm still going to love you with every 1,000 piece that you cut me up in." People, this is how you have to go at your family members. You know what I mean? Jazz, I even said to Jazz in the first episode, my kids cut me off. They didn't talk to me. I couldn't see my grandbabies. And I love my grandsons. Boy. Anybody who knows.
Sometimes we have to do tough love to get your act together. So.
Yeah.
you're going through it
Yeah.
now, it's just because they love you. It's not because they don't want to help you.
Yeah. And guys, those of you that will get this recording, because unbeknownst to Jazz, I did go live here on Riverside.
Yes.
And the reason why I did that is because somebody needs to hear this. We did go over our time limit, but guess what? So be it. That's why we are where we are, Jazz.
Right.
This is about conversation. This is something that is near and dear to both of us on different aspects for different reasons. I don't know. Jazz could be because of her kids. I don't know. I know what mine was. Because I don't share it with somebody, I could be taken just like that.
Right.
You know, iron sharpens iron at all times. You know? So, Jazz, if you don't have anything else to say, I'm going to have to send you the saying at the end so that you can say it. Because, guys, I might be the host of the show. I'm not the one-word decision on this show. Jasmine has her own feeling and her own opinion and her own thought. We come up with our own research, guys, and believe that. There may be times that we may
speak on different topics, like he was speaking on a different topic than I was, but we're still coming together as one to talk about the same topic.
That's right. Because Hillary Clinton said it best. It takes a village to raise a child. And that's the age group that I come from and Jazz's mom comes from. Before you got to that damn street corner, you got your ass whooped by 3 people that seen you. What you did. So by the time you got to your mom's house, whew, the stench of coke came out in a hot tub, water, bath, ran. And go ahead and run. Run all you want. And the more you put that hand behind there, the more that stench of coke got it. And we learned. We aren't dead. And God rest their souls. The ones that aren't here are the ones that had family members scared to really show that they cared. And caring is cutting off. Caring is locking them the hell up. Sleeping down on a county jail floor or in an in-processing center is kind of harsh, but tough love is good love. And I mean that. Because I'm thankful today that the only 2 people that I really, and I'm not saying that I didn't care about my parents. I'm not saying that I don't care about family members. But the only 2 people that I cared about and what they felt was my 2 children. And them shutting me off and tuning me out to their world hurt it. And it hurt it more than maybe they know or they imagine. But it did. It tore me to pieces. You know, and they said, Dad, you're a daggone crybaby. You know what? I am. And guess what? Oh, well. Because the shit that I did, I don't deserve to have children the caliber that they are. But that's because that one parent, I pushed the load on that one parent. And for that woman's banging. That woman's the damn bomb. I don't give a fuck what y'all say or what y'all feel. Miss Monica Jackson is the reason why my children are where they are. Yeah, I had something to do with it on previous years, but they're there because of her. So, I'm not even going to play no outro music or none of that because I want you guys to hear these words. That God loves you and so do I. And Jazz, there is nothing that you can do about it. Do not let nobody deter you from your dreams,
Right.
your goals, your aspirations, or anything, because you and that man above are the only ones that can control your destiny. You are your Grand Reaper, or you can be your own savior because of you allowing the current savior come through you. Guys, I want you to keep coming back, listening to us on the Table Talk. We got some more judge for you.
Yes, live in your truth. Do not be a follower, be a leader all the way. Live
All the way. You heard what she said. And with that, I'm going to let Jasmine have the last word.
I don't have anything else. We covered everything.
So, this is the ending. Part 2. There is no more parts. This may come up again in another conversation at a later time. I'm going to turn this down because I can't hear my co-host what she just said. Now, what did you just say, Jazz?
I said, yes, we're going to probably talk about this again. It won't be soon, but it will be in the future because there's a lot more stuff to touch base on this topic.
Hold on. Guys, we love you. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to end up on a good note. I got this cut from a special person in my life, and it's called We Cruising. And you can't hide. We started out the show with this. Baby, we're going to end the show with it. See you guys. Come back.